Hey everyone, this is Stuart Crawford, and welcome back to the MSP Show here on Blog Talk Radio and on YouTube as well, and Apple iTunes, and you name it, all over the place. We're broadcasting across the world thanks to the internet. Today I have a very special guest, is John Beyer from Realize Solutions out there in beautiful and locked down Connecticut. John, good Monday to you. How are things up there in Solventon? Are you guys still enjoying this world we call, living in COVID-19?
Well, I'd be lying if I didn't tell you, Stuart, that we're experiencing a little bit of cabin fever, but we're getting by. We are thrilled to be working with you and Ulistic, but we're doing well here in the Northeast. It's, the sun is not shining today, but it was yesterday, and we'll continue to watch the weather improve as we get through the spring and into summer.
I'm wanting this whole thing to be finished because, every year I enjoy a trip up to the Cape, and we go and, spend a couple weeks on, in Provincetown and Chatham and all over the Cape, and really enjoy New England, everything has to offer. But tell me a little about the, John, Realize Solutions. Tell me a little about the company. Tell me your story. How did you get into this crazy world we call IT services, managed services?
Sure.
How did you get into this industry?
Well, my IT story actually personally began in the Air Force. U.S. Air Force taught me how to use computers, and so once I was discharged from the Air Force, decided to get into helping businesses with their computers. I became a partner in a New York City firm, and then decided to buy out my partners at the Connecticut office back in 2003. And so that's really how Realize Solutions was born. We started out at that point. We were 5 people, and through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, we grew now to be 42 IT professionals here in Southington.
So the Air Force, quick. So my background, I did the exact same thing you did, but it's in the Canadian Army. Got my, after 4 years of coordinating artillery fire control, which was amazing. I loved that job I had. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and somebody said, "Hey, anybody know about computers?" And I said, "Hey, Sergeant, I just bought one yesterday." He said, "Well, Crawford, you're in the IT department. Get over there and go report to those guys." So that was the start of it. So so how did you make the transition from the Air Force to civilian sector and understanding how businesses work? Because that took a little bit of time for me, because I went from obviously military, Banyan Vines networks. Now I'm dating myself, to understanding the oil and gas industry. How did you? What was that transition like for you? I always like to hear that story.
I think it was probably similar to the one you described, but I was fortunate enough to the firm that I joined in Manhattan had 2 great partners that really taught me the ropes on the business side. One of them is actually one of our best clients now. He after we left, he moved on to a large insurance company, and we write all their software today. But that, if anything, I'd have to give credit there to helping me to make that transition.
And that's right. You have, besides managed services, you also have a software component, which I'm starting to see a little bit more of these days, believe it or not. You're probably the second or third company that I've talked to in the last month that has some sort of, custom dev part of their business. Do you find that as an advantage for Realize Solutions that you do have that whole spectrum covered?
I think it's a huge advantage, to be honest. And you're right. There are a few firms out there that do both. Many of them work in very restrictive tool sets. In other words, you'll see advertised, okay, they'll write you custom solutions, but really what they're doing is customizing SharePoint, or working within a confined space. Our folks develop software from the ground up, so we're using C# or VB.NET and writing applications that solve business problems, and that's where we see some significant advantages. So, for example, on our MSP side, one of the things that you could run into is a requirement that you have to hit. We're managing 1,400 desktops or so now. If you need to make a change to each of those, having some familiarity with scripting is going to be very beneficial for you. And our we call it the hardware team, but our hardware team can tap the resources on the development side anytime. Similarly, it works the other way. A lot of times, and it sounds crazy, I know, but sometimes the developers don't really understand how the computer works at a basic level, and so they can go and have those conversations with the people that know. A lot of times you'll have problems in a program, but it's because of something wrong with the network stack, that something's misconfigured or they didn't understand. And so having both talent pools available to work with each other has been very beneficial for us.
And I think, I find that a lot of MSPs are like a lot of the advanced ones are really starting to look at scripting as a way to roll out patches or security updates or make changes to a configuration, so they don't have to go and touch every system under management. So I can definitely see where that would give you an advantage there. So John, tell me a little about the name. How did you come up with Realize Solutions? What was the aha behind that name? Was it something personal or just something that you acquired?
Well, it was a joint effort. Of the 5 folks that were here when we basically launched out of the other company, the 3 of us were sitting down and just trying to come up with a name for the new company. And one of the things that we experienced was often we would see projects, particularly in IT, and that were not successful. And so the key element for us is that we wanted to not only be an IT company, but we provide solutions for businesses. We help them to achieve their objectives, whether it be a nonprofit, or a for-profit enterprise.
Great. So, tell me a little about the journey from those early days now to now. So, what has it been like? What is if you had to take 2 or 3 main things that you've learned over the years that you've been doing this, what would you say your biggest lessons have been when it comes to understanding the technology that the businesses need to compete and survive in today's world?
Okay, so there's a couple of points that I would make there. One is that IT business or IT decisions, IT spend decisions, are based on trust. And anything that you can do to reinforce the level of trust that you have between you and your client is going to be critical to the long-term success of the business. Which brings me to the second point. The relationship needs to, you need to look at the long-term vision for the relationship. It's not about trying to sell the next widget, the next operating system, the next version of Office, the next computer. It's about making sure that you're the first person they call when they need to purchase that new computer 10 years from now or 15 years from now, or in more recent times when they need to work from home. Just a brief success story there. We had 3 different actually medical practices that had never considered how to handle telemedicine, and within a week we had all 3 of them working from home. And these are not practices with 2-3 doctors. I mean, there's one of them's a fertility office that operates with 60 different doctors. So we help them get into telemedicine quickly and efficiently. But it's about trust. It's about looking at the long term, and honestly, it's about being at the table to help businesses achieve their own objectives.
So, good point, and I agree 100% with everything you said. And it's the same in my business, and it's the same when I ran my MSP out in Western Canada. It's I wanted to be top of mind. So, John, looking back, and I'm sure you analyze these over the years, in your opinion, what are some of the errors that MSPs are making when it comes to achieving that? Because I think they all want it, but some of them probably sit back and go, "Gee, I'm not." They bought that copier, they bought that scanner, they bought something, or they went with some solution, and I wasn't even invited to be invited to that.
Well, it's interesting you asked that, Stuart, because we've seen examples, and this has been just over time, where clients of ours didn't know all the services we provide. So, for example, clients didn't know that we offered custom software development, for example, or software development clients didn't know that we offered MSP services. And that's something that we've work to address and make sure that through marketing, we're communicating so that they can understand all of the different things we can help them with. Some things that may seem silly, but I mean, I've got the birth dates for, particularly from those first half dozen or a dozen clients back from 2003, but I've got the birth dates of their principals on my calendar. And it's not an unusual thing for me to send them a birthday wish.
Well, I heard a little bit of a chuckle in there, John, and I have to laugh too. But it's those little things that mean so much. Would you agree?
Oh, no doubt. Just no doubt. Because, and I started out by saying earlier that it's about the trust and that relationship between you and your client. And those little things help to build that. It shows that you care, and that's really, one of the things that we've striven for and been very successful at is making sure that in our hiring decisions, we make sure we hire people that empathize. And it's difficult in the IT field, and maybe some folks get a bad rap for it, but people who genuinely care about the clients individually as well as their success.
So how do you test for that? Because I'm the same way. I want people who are on my team, much like every other business owner, probably, that, if it's 5 to 5 and a client calls with an issue, they just don't look at the caller ID and go, okay, I'll deal with that tomorrow.
That's a great question. So we've actually, and it's taken us some time, but we've worked up a very prescribed hiring practice. We like to say, I like phrases for a bunch of different things. So we like the phrase hire hard and manage easy. We're very discerning about who we bring in the door. We start out with a phone interview. That's actually handled by our HR person, Laura. She'll do a phone interview, usually half an hour to an hour, just to get to know the person. She jots down a bunch of different answers for various things. Then we'll bring the individual in. We'll test them on a technical test as well as, and it's a self-developed technical test. Things like, we try to determine which layer of the onion that particular person's technical skills are, whether it's software or hardware related. After the technical test, they'll get interviewed by at least 2 more people. And then we do a DISC profile. It's a DISC is a personality assessment.
That total assessment. Yeah, I'm a double D, if you can't tell.
Oh. So we do that DISC assessment not as a litmus test to see if we're going to hire the person, but really to say, okay, look, this is my impression of who this person is and how they interact with people. And if the DISC profile comes in consistent with that, great. We know we're on the right track. If it comes in inconsistent with that, we might have a few more questions to ask.
Gotcha. So the DISC profile is just a verification tool that your assumptions are correct.
Yeah, but we found them to be exceptionally accurate. I mean, there are times where you could disagree with a point here or there. I mean, I was just astounded when I took because all of our management team takes them as well, and we share them. Because it helps not only to know who you are, but it helps you to interact with others who might be in a different style. Of course. But I've been amazed at how accurate they are for the simple number of questions. I mean, I don't remember exactly, but it's a couple dozen questions and you're done.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the test you get, that is, you'll get some that have a few questions and have a little bit more. But yeah, they're pretty accurate. I mean, when the first one I did, I don't know if you know David Russell, who had a company called Manage to Win. I think he has IT Charm School now. Last time I checked him, so he did that test. I mean, I was a DI, but back then I was in sales. My primary job was sales. So he said that made total sense. Stuart, he said, I still remember the quote. Stuart will make friends with the doorknob and then forget the name of the doorknob 10 minutes later. But he was bang on because at that time, my whole vision was on just, the sales side of what I did. And of course, now that I start my own business, now that I'm by myself, I mean, obviously I had to adjust. And now, as I said, I'm a double D, let's just get down to business and let's go. But Missy, who's my business partner, she compliments me because she's the S and the I of the relationship. So That's big. And now she's shaking her head at me from across the room saying, that's not right. Well, last time I checked, it was right. But, but we complement each other that way because I'm very much just get down to business, let's move. She is the planner and get everything all, make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are. And I think you need that in a relationship. So when you're hiring, I think that comes across. And I think your clients pick up on that too, John, don't they?
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. I mean, we've had situations where we've had people who were very strong technically, but maybe were a little bit abrasive. We joke about it. It's like the old Saturday Night Live skits where the IT guy tells people to move, get out of their chair. Mm-hmm. But we've focused a lot on hiring people with jovial personalities, and we've actually had senior management members of a number of clients say, this other person's quicker, but we rather have, Tech A or Joey or Jim Bob or whatever, because they're just fun to be with.
Yeah, isn't that unique when that happens? So obviously you've been in business for a number of years, and you already shared a number of great tips. Where do you see the IT industry going in the next, let's say, 10 years? John, how do you see IT evolving and helping businesses through the next 10 years, no matter what happens? If we get over this coronavirus thing and everything's great again, or if we have to hunker down and have a few rough years ahead of us, do you think technology is going to be a cornerstone to whatever path the world takes us?
Oh, I think it already is. And I genuinely believe that's just going to continue to grow. The old phrase, never overlook the opportunity present in a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
There are a number of companies who never would have even thought about working from home. And now are doing so 100%. And, I believe that a fair number of them, maybe not a majority, but a fair number of them will continue to do so. I think there'll be implications across the spectrum of our economy for, we joke about it here. It's not something you deal with down in Florida anymore, but snow days here in school for the kids. I don't expect them to ever have another snow day.
Oh, really? Because people can work from home.
Yeah, the teachers have already set up all the infrastructure. The IT infrastructure is there. The purchases have been made for the folks who were in the unfortunate position where they didn't have a computer at home. I mean, these are all expenses that have already been incurred. There's no reason to have another snow day. There's no reason to resist ever trying or allowing folks to work from home. And I think that will continue to increase. I mean, consider some of the insurance companies, for example, that have offices all over the country. All of a sudden, they've got everyone working from home, and the CFOs in those organizations, I could see them starting to look and say, we're paying whatever large rent and electricity and et cetera for these buildings that we don't need anymore.
Well, interesting point that you bring up, because I just recently read a Gartner study. Now, this is from early April, but Gartner reported 74% of CFOs are starting to seriously look at remote working as an option. Now, it's a small percentage of the workforce, 5 to 10%, but to some companies, a big insurance company, 5 to 10% of the workforce working remote could be, several hundreds of $1,000s in savings.
Sure. And that could be per month.
Yeah, exactly. And, the way I look at it, my organization, I started Ulistic off as a virtual business. Now, my immigration status, for those that don't know, I'm a Canadian living in the U.S., so I have immigration hurdles to jump through every once in a while. But, part of that was I had to have a brick and mortar business. I don't know why immigration can't get their head around this virtual thing, but they can't. So I had to have a lease, and I had to show that I was committed to being, working a business in the U.S. for, a number of years. But I'm really thinking now, if after my lease comes due in a couple of years, do I need to have a lease? Can I not just get a work center, in Sebring, have everybody come in for meetings once or twice a week, and then everybody else go back home, or just use Teams and have that. What businesses will realize, John, is that no longer is Southington, Connecticut the place where you get all your talent. Maybe you find somebody in Boston, or maybe you find somebody in Seattle who has the skill sets that you need on maybe as a gig type world. I think the gig economy is going to really open up from this.
I think you're right. I'd agree 100%.
So how do you now let's switch gears. How do you from a security perspective? How do you secure that though? That's the biggest hurdle I'm seeing right now is all these people with all these home networks. How do you make sure that your information is secure?
Well, we've taken a couple of different approaches, but the buzzword that we adhere to is defense in depth. This is the defense in depth principle is originated in medieval times, right? You wanted to protect yourself from the bad actors that were on the outside, and so you built up a big wall, and it was just went around your castle, or your office. And so originally that's all you had, and everything that was on the inside was considered good, and everything that was on the outside was considered bad. Then the hackers got a little more sophisticated, and so now you needed to put a moat because the wall was no longer sufficient because people could put ladders over it, and so you built a moat. And then inside your walls you had to build a keep, and you had this layered defense. And so what that's called is defense in depth. What it means is that each individual layer is independently operated to protect you, and collectively they work together to provide security. That's the same principles with firewalls, antivirus, security policies on your machines, keeping everything patched, anti-malware, et cetera, and the list goes on. But all of those things, the main point for MSP is that that's your area of expertise, right? I mean, as a customer of an MSP or business owner or nonprofit, you don't call two lawyers to get their advice or two accountants. You hire one. You hire one attorney or one accountant, and you trust them to do their best to help your business. The same with MSP. You should hire one MSP to help you manage all of those layers of defense for your organization.
And I agree 100% with you. I wrote an article. I can't remember when I published it, but it was around that same concept of the defense in depth. I just called it the layers of the onion. Every piece of your security has to be like a layer like the onion and work independently of each other. I think that you're going to have one type of security that you're going to need to make sure that your freelancer / gig people can get the resources they want, but also make sure you're doing it in a secure fashion. And you're going to have your other set of rules and layers for your full-time staff. So very, very important. John, do you see security, given the world that we live in now, is something that's going to continue to evolve over time as threats continue to emerge? I mean, I'm sure we're seeing, I never thought of ransomware 5 to 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, it will continue to evolve. It's not a one size fit all. The primary purpose, primary consideration that we look at is you want to protect the data using the most cost-effective means, right? So for example, you wouldn't go out and pay $1 million for a safe to put $10 worth of value into it. And so those are the types of decisions we help our customers make. Here's the level of risk. Here's the level of security you want to have, and it is evolving. 5 years ago, you also wouldn't have gone and started training every user on how to mitigate the different types of phishing scams, et cetera. But that's it's a bit of a cat and mouse game. The bad actors continue to evolve their practices and procedures, and the IT folks have to not only respond but try to get ahead of them in a number of areas. So I think it's going to continue to change.
Yeah, I would happen to agree with all those comments and statements. I think you're bang on, and it's amazing how the world continues to evolve and change as the needs change. Now we have IoT devices. We have all these home devices like Siri's and Google Homes, and I don't want to say the word of the one I have in my house, so it's going to start going off on me. But
we all have that one.
Yeah. So that we never thought of these things. I mean, I was just telling Missy that when we built our house up in Canada 5 or 6 years ago, I would have never put that $7,000 or $8,000 Sonos home entertainment system, and I would have just got a bunch of these, black circular devices and threw them around my house. Technology continues to evolve, and some people like it, some people hate it. But is there a role for the MSP? Let me ask the question. So I'll just send it around to her. From an advisory perspective, how are you helping clients advise them on the right technologies to consider investing in?
Our rule of thumb is actually we look for places to provide a 1-year ROI. And so we look for places where something might be inefficient and use it as an opportunity to let's improve upon it. So, just even in we get a SOC audit, a service organization compliance audit every year voluntarily. It's not required, but we find that it helps us keep our skills sharp. And one of the areas that we saw that was inefficient for us was how we managed our locks. So you've got different people with different levels of authorization to go into the server room versus into the office, et cetera. And a couple of years ago, we decided to invest in a locking system that was internet driven, that could connect over the web, and you could monitor it and add codes, and it's fully audited and dual factor authenticated and all that good stuff. So it's got all the security that you want to build into it to make sure somebody's not allowing themselves into your building. But we looked at the cost of labor that it was taking us to manage that system versus the cost of putting in the new system, and found that it was absolutely appropriate for us to buy that new one. And that's the kind of that's the type of effort that we put into helping our clients as well, is to find the places where they can actually improve on their objectives, whether it be again a nonprofit that's looking to help folks with whatever it is that that they might do. I mean, we help a number of nonprofits, so it's why I keep coming back to that. Or a for-profit enterprise, looking to make them more efficient. We help them to find places where they can invest in technology, whether it might be a new operating system, a new computer, or a new widget in their custom application, to improve their efficiency.
Oh, very, very interesting. So, I mean, I like that 1-year ROI. I think that's super critical to help businesses make decisions. So, John, kind of wrapping up, if I was a brand new MSP business owner and I kind of stumbled upon this podcast recording, what 3 things would you like to share to influence that new MSP business owner on, running a successful MSP business? I know you probably already touched on some of these earlier, but just kind of, if you have to repeat, that's cool. I totally get it. But what 3 things can you share and say, do these 3 things and you're on your way to running a successful company?
Sure. So I think one of the most critical ones is to make sure that you hire the right people. Having people that share your desire to help clients, which is the second one. Make sure you're always helping your client. Take that long-term vision for helping that client, so that you're there with them 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And the reality is that the bottom line will take care of itself, so long as you're doing those first 2.
Great advice. So, John, what's the website and phone number if somebody wanted to learn more about you guys?
Sure. No, our website is www.myrsi.com. So myrsi.com, and we can be reached at area code 860-410-0670.
Wonderful, John. This is really great. Good stuff here. I'm looking forward to working with you and the team up there in Connecticut. I think it's gonna be awesome. Can't wait to one day get up there and meet you guys face to face. We'll figure that day out when it comes. Thanks again for doing this, folks. If you want to learn more about John and his company, myrsi.com is the website. Check it out. We have lots of great content here on the MSP Show scheduled over the next several weeks. So make sure you check back regularly. If you're listening to us on Blog Talk Radio, go and hit that follow button, follow our show. If you're on YouTube, click that subscribe button below or below the video here. Click on the subscribe button and click on the little alarm bell, and you'll get notified when we have more great content. John, thanks again for doing this. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the MSP Show.
Thank you, Stuart.